They say fire destroys everything it touches, but nobody tells you that some people are already burning long before the flames arrive. Daniel Carter was one of those people. At 34, he carried a tired face that made him look older than his years, not because of age, but because of responsibility. Life had taken too much from him too early, and it never bothered to ask if he was ready. 2 years earlier, Daniel's wife had collapsed in their kitchen while laughing at something small and meaningless. By the time the ambulance arrived, the laughter was gone forever. No goodbye. No last words. Just silence. From that night on, Daniel stopped living for himself. He lived only for one reason, his 6-year-old son, Evan. Their apartment building was old, forgotten by the city, and ignored by landlords who only cared about rent. The wiring was weak, the walls cracked, and the hallways smelled of dust and rust. People called it unsafe. Daniel called it home, because it was the only place where Evan still slept peacefully at night. That evening, Daniel returned home late from work. His body ached, his hands were rough, and his mind felt heavy. Evan was asleep on the couch, hugging a small toy fire truck like it was treasure. Daniel smiled faintly, lifted him carefully, and carried him to bed. As he tucked the blanket around him, he leaned close and whispered, "No matter what happens, I'm here. I always will be." At 2:17 a.m., the building shook violently. The sound wasn't loud at first, it was deep, like the building itself had cried out in pain. Then came the smoke. Thick, black, suffocating smoke poured into Daniel's apartment like a living thing. The fire alarm screamed. Somewhere far away, glass shattered. Somewhere closer, someone screamed a name. Daniel woke up coughing, his chest burning. His first instinct wasn't fear, it was Evan. He rushed to the bedroom, grabbed his son, and wrapped him tightly in a blanket. Evan woke up crying, confused, terrified, as smoke filled the room and the walls glowed orange. They ran into the hallway, but the air was already heavy. People were running in every direction. Some were barefoot, some bleeding, some crying hysterically. No one looked at anyone else. Survival had erased compassion. The stairs were crowded, voices overlapping, panic growing stronger by the second. As Daniel reached the stairwell, Evan suddenly screamed and clutched his father's shirt with desperate strength. "Daddy! Lily! Lily is still inside." Daniel's heart dropped. Lily was the little girl who lived 2 floors above them. Her father couldn't walk without help. Her mother worked nights. Daniel knew what that meant. If Lily hadn't escaped already, she was alone. He hesitated for half a second, a moment that felt like an eternity. People around him shouted, "Don't go back. You'll die. Save your child." Daniel looked down at Evan's face, pale with fear, eyes full of trust. This was the moment every parent prays never comes, the moment where love demands an impossible choice. Slowly, Daniel knelt and handed Evan to a trembling stranger. "Please," he said, his voice breaking, "don't let go of him." Evan screamed, cried, fought, but Daniel held his face gently. "Listen to me. If I don't come back, remember this. I loved you more than my own life." Then Daniel stood up, turned around, and walked back into the smoke while everyone else ran the opposite way. Inside the building, time stopped making sense. Fire roared through the hallways. Heat crushed his lungs. Smoke blinded his eyes. Every breath felt like his last. Daniel crawled when he couldn't walk, guided only by the sound of a child crying somewhere above him. He found Lily unconscious, trapped behind a partially collapsed door. Flames crawled across the ceiling. Daniel wrapped his jacket around his face, forced the door open, and lifted her into his arms. The moment he turned back, the ceiling collapsed behind him, cutting off the path he came from. Fire surrounded him. Smoke swallowed everything. His legs weakened. His vision blurred. Daniel fell to his knees, clutching Lily, and for the first time, he felt something colder than fear. Death. Not screaming. Not rushing. Just waiting. In that stillness, Daniel saw Evan's face again. He remembered the promise whispered in a quiet room hours earlier. I'm here. I always will be. His body was ready to give up, but his heart refused. With strength that didn't belong to a tired man, Daniel stood up, charged through a burning wall, and crashed into open air as firefighters arrived. Flames exploded behind him as he collapsed onto the ground, still holding the child. The crowd went silent. The fire didn't win that night. Daniel was rushed to the hospital, burned, broken, barely breathing. Doctors warned Evan that his father might not survive. The boy sat outside the ICU all night, clutching his toy fire truck, whispering the same words again and again, "Please don't take my daddy." At sunrise, the impossible happened. Daniel's heart stabilized. His breathing improved. One doctor whispered, he shouldn't be alive. Weeks later, Daniel opened his eyes. His first word was weak but clear. "Evan?" The boy ran to him, crying, laughing, alive with relief. Daniel never called himself a hero. He never asked for praise. He only kept a promise, the kind that fire can't burn and death can't break. Because that night proved one truth the world often forgets. When love stands its ground, even death steps back.